Thanks, Jane. Hello and welcome to Wales Today. I'm Jennifer Jones with the headlines. He served in several high-profile Welsh Government roles, but tonight, Health Secretary Jeremy Miles announces he won't be standing in next year's Senedd election. Mr Miles is the 14th Labour Senedd member to stand down. Also tonight, a pregnant prison worker who had a sexual relationship with an inmate who was out on licence is spared jail.
The court heard Breen had drinks with the inmate and then went back to her hotel with him.
As Freshers' Week kicks off, we hear how the number of students choosing to live at home has doubled. Kirsty says she lives with her nan to save on rent.
It would have been better for me to stay at home instead of going into halls anywhere else, because we were pricing it up at different universities and it was very costly.
She's learned to dance again after losing her leg in an accident. We meet 11-year-old Alice, who's been nominated for an award.
And a plaque has been unveiled to mark the achievements of the first Welsh woman ever to win an Olympic gold medal, swimmer Irene Steer. But find out why it's been positioned here at Roath Park Lake in Cardiff.
Good evening. Noswaith Dda. One of the most high-profile Labour Senedd members, Jeremy Miles, has announced he will not be standing in next year's Senedd election. He's the current Health Secretary, and just last year he stood to be the leader of Welsh Labour. But today he's written to his local party in Neath and to the First Minister to announce his decision not to stand. Mr Miles said he'd concluded that the end of this Senedd term was the time to seek a new and different challenge. Elena Rice reports.
Jeremy Miles, just yesterday, speaking to hospital staff as monthly waiting list times were published. We asked him for his reaction to polling, which showed Plaid Cymru and Reform as frontrunners to succeed in next May's Senedd election.
The truth of it is, it's a reminder for all of us that the election is a choice for people in Wales.
But that choice for people in Neath will not include Mr Miles. Almost a decade ago, the former media lawyer from Pontedilais entered the Senedd. Next May, he'll bow out. He made history as one of Wales's first openly gay male members of the Senedd, something he didn't underestimate the significance of. He rose quickly through the ranks, sitting first around the cabinet table in 2017 as the Welsh Government's top lawyer, the role in which he oversaw the introduction of votes for 16 and 17-year-olds. He was also Wales's man in Brussels as Brexit negotiations rolled on. More recently, he held the positions of Education Secretary, Energy and Economy Secretary, Minister for the Welsh Language, before becoming Health Secretary. To many, he had the characteristics of a future leader, so it was little surprise when in 2023, following the resignation of Mark Drakeford, Mr Miles put himself forward for the top job, leading Wales and the Welsh Labour Party. Ultimately, he lost that competition to Vaughan Gething, whose decision to accept controversial donations to his campaign caused divisions within the Labour group. Divisions which soon led to Gething's downfall, the final blow coming when Miles and 3 other cabinet members resigned last July. In letters today to his constituency group and to the First Minister, Mr Miles said it had been a privilege to hold his seat, but that the end of this term was the right time to seek a new and different challenge. One he says will help him find a better balance between his work and his loved ones. Eluned Morgan, who entered the Senedd at the same time as Jeremy Miles, said she'd personally valued the counsel and support Mr Miles had given her, and that she was sad he won't be in the next Senedd. Jeremy Miles joins more than a quarter of his Labour colleagues in choosing to not seek re-election next year at a time of upheaval for Labour in Wales.
Well, our political correspondent, Camlyn Davis, is here. Camlyn, did anyone see this coming?
Well, Jen, Jeremy Miles is the 14th sitting Labour MS to announce that they won't be standing again in May. But I think his announcement is the most surprising and also the most significant, because even though he had already publicly ruled out standing again to be leader of Welsh Labour, he was still being talked about as somebody who could potentially do that job in the future. And when you look at how poorly Labour are doing in the polls at the moment, another poor poll rating earlier this week, a record low rating for Welsh Labour, well, people are speculating about who could potentially lead the party in the future. But you speak to those close to him and they say that Jeremy Miles accepted last summer, when he pulled back from challenging Eluned Morgan, that he had had his one shot at the top job. And then you also look at those polls, and of course there's a long way to go, isn't there? But there is a suggestion at the moment that Jeremy Miles couldn't be certain of being re-elected, and he's clearly decided over the summer that there are other priorities, other things that he wants to and needs to focus on.
And it's likely, isn't it, that his political career will be remembered for last year's big leadership contest.
Yes, this is a man who's been at the forefront of Welsh politics for the last 8 years. He's been Brexit Minister, Education Secretary, Economy Secretary, Health Secretary now, of course. But I think that leadership contest last year, the circumstances around it, how it ended, the fallout, I think inevitably that's what people will remember. That was a period that exposed real divisions within the famously united Labour group in Cardiff Bay. And I was speaking to one Labour MS earlier this week who said those damaged relationships, as they put it, are still there. But that Labour group now, of course, must prepare for next year's election, knowing that yet another one of their number won't be returning. OK,
Camlyn, thank you very much for that. A prison worker has avoided a jail sentence after a sexual relationship with an inmate while he was released on licence. 23-year-old Megan Breen has been given a 10-month suspended sentence for misconduct in public office after the inappropriate relationship with a prisoner at HMP Prescoed in Monmouthshire. Here's Jordan Davis.
Megan Breen, seen here in the middle, a former prison worker arriving at court to be sentenced for having a sexual relationship with an inmate. Breen shared hundreds of messages with the prisoner and even met his parents. She worked here at HMP Prescoed, an open prison in Monmouthshire. She was responsible for checking on prisoners and listening to their phone calls. But in 2022, she began an inappropriate relationship with a drug dealer. Today, the court was told Megan Breen met up with the inmate in Liverpool while celebrating her 20th birthday with prison colleagues. The inmate was from the area and was visiting family while out on licence. The court heard Breen had drinks with the inmate and then went back to her hotel with him. The court heard suspicions were raised when Breen used the prison database to access a picture of the inmate. She then told a shocked colleague she'd slept with him and that other prison staff and inmates knew about the relationship.
There needs to be a culture in the prison service which is, to protect us all, these things need to be reported. There is a kind of, we don't want to grass on so-and-so, but that is about getting the culture right. And, clearly there were, with most cases like this, people are only caught because it gets more and more and more obvious.
The court heard Breen and the inmate shared hundreds of messages, including on a prison Nokia mobile phone. The court heard they'd both said they loved each other, and Breen visited the inmate after he'd been released. Today, the judge said Breen knew what she was doing was wrong, but she said she had to take account of the fact the defendant has a young child, cares for another child, and is pregnant. Breen was sentenced to 10 months in prison, suspended for 18 months.
Jordan Davis reporting there. 2 people have pleaded guilty to charges relating to the death of a woman shot dead at a block of flats in Rhondda-Cynon-Taf in March. Joanne Penny died at the scene at Green Park in Talbot Green. 11 people have been charged in connection with the case, and 5 of them appeared at Cardiff Crown Court today. Marcus Huntley and Jordan Mills-Smith, both from Cardiff, admitted participating in the criminal activities of an organised crime group. They've previously pleaded not guilty to murder. The Welsh Liberal Democrats have selected Steve Aitchler as their candidate in the Senedd by-election in Caerphilly next month. He's a councillor on the Bedwas, Trethomas and Machen Community Council and says his campaign will focus on social care and childcare. More coverage of the by-election is available on the BBC Wales News website. Now, as universities across Wales prepare for Freshers' Week, recent figures suggest that more students than ever are choosing to live at home during their studies. Rising accommodation costs and changing priorities are among the factors driving the trend. That's according to the union representing students here. Yola Chung has the details.
Freshers' Week at the University of South Wales, and the chance to get started on the year to come. For students, it's a new chapter, and for many, it also means moving away from home.
I think it was just to get the taste of independence, sort of a practice run of living on your own.
The social life, just being around everyone.
Originally, I was living at home because I was like, oh, I don't really want to be away from my mum. And then everyone else was going out and stuff, and I was getting crazy FOMO, not going to lie.
But it's not the case for everyone. Kirsty Halpin drives 40 minutes a day from her nan's house in the Rhymney Valley to her lectures in Pontypridd, and accommodation costs were a major factor.
So as a family, we all looked at each other, it was like, would you rather stay at home or go and basically work your butt off to make rent? And I was like, right, I'll stay home, split the costs with Nan, and then we'll just go from there. Obviously, you have a better social life when you're on campus, but I'm a homebound person.
Across the UK, figures from university applications body UCAS suggest the number of students intending to live at home has doubled in the last 20 years. The recent survey by campaign group Save the Student found that 15% of them now stay with their parents.
Economic factors are certainly part of the reason why more are choosing to live at home. Students in Wales now pay an average of £473 a month in rent. That's £5,500 a year. But there are other possible reasons as well, with some now prioritising their studies ahead of socialising.
That's certainly the case for Isaac Williams, a culinary arts student at Coleg Llandrillo in Conwy.
Kind of just looked at pros and cons list, but mostly just like how close I could stay to my house, and the uni for the college is like within 15 minutes, so it all just made sense.
What's important, say student bodies, is that those who choose not to live on campus aren't disadvantaged.
We need to make sure that the quality of online or hybrid education is the same, but also from a social aspect. The reason a lot of people do go to university is to develop themselves as individuals and to socialise and to grow and to learn new things. So we are seeing more Students' Union doing a variety of events and giving that flexibility for people.
For some students, living at home is a choice. For others, a necessity, all hoping it will pay off in the end.
Yola Chung there. Still to come on the programme.
Oh, my beautiful life.
It may sound unlikely, but we find out how Louis the Plasterer's haircut helped restore a medieval church in Monmouthshire.
And a real mix in weather conditions this weekend. Another rain warning has been issued, but I do have news of some lengthier, drier spells. Join me later to find out when it will eventually settle down.
A young dancer who lost her leg in a lawnmower accident was determined from day one to get back on stage. That's according to her family. 11-year-old Alice Davis was rushed to hospital on Father's Day in 2022. Well, now she's a finalist in the BBC Wales Make a Difference Awards, and she's been speaking to our reporter, Meleri Williams.
Big arms, go back, big arms.
An active, energetic little girl. Alice from Ammanford has always loved to dance.
Alice. Dwi'n hoffi dansio.
But that stopped in June 2022.
Alice and her siblings were out playing, and for some reason she came too close with the lawnmower and made contact, and obviously as a result suffered the most horrific injury, possible really, and rushed down to Morrison Hospital to be given the news that it was in her best interest that her leg, would be amputated.
At 8 years old?
To be given the news to start with was obviously, heartbreaking. It was shattering, isn't it? But fortunately, if we could even be fortunate, that Alice herself, from day one, was just determined.
Learning to walk was the first step for Alice. And with a prosthetic leg, well, there was no holding her back.
I had to come over loads of challenges. With some time, I learned how to dance and stuff then. So I overcame another challenge then.
Alice has been nominated in the Young Hero category in BBC Wales's Make a Difference Awards, held in Cardiff on Saturday.
I didn't even know I was nominated, at the start. But then when, they explained it to me, I felt happy, but I didn't really know what to feel at the same time.
And she had a special message to medical staff and family.
Without the help, I probably wouldn't be, where I am today. So I'm just thankful that they've helped me and they've believed in me and stuff.
With support and encouragement from her friends and family, not one goal is out of her reach.
The amazing Alice Davis there now. Tonight's sport, and Thomas is here.
Jen, diolch. Noswaith dda, good evening. Wrexham's manager Phil Parkinson says there have been no talks over his future at the club. After 5 games in the Championship, his side is just above the relegation zone. It comes as one of the club's directors described aspects of the speculation surrounding the manager's future as an absolute disgrace. Back in April, yet another promotion party, and hugs all round for the manager who's led Wrexham to 3 successive promotions.
Mr. Chairman, how are you?
5 months on, and after a 3rd defeat in 5 league games, Phil Parkinson is facing questions over speculation surrounding his position.
There was no discussions after the game. We're just frustrated as a staff. Each season I've been here, and every season I've had as a manager, and a lot of successful seasons, you have times where people question you, question the players, but that's when everyone sticks together and comes through the other side of it stronger than ever.
Another club with high-profile American backers is Birmingham City. Swansea will be heading there tomorrow lunchtime. It's early days, but after 5 games, Swansea are just outside the playoff places. And returning to the Premier League is a realistic aim, according to this new signing. Adam Eder knows what it takes. He won promotion with Norwich, and he's seen enough at Swansea to believe he can do it again.
I think this team is fantastic, and I've been in a team where we've been promoted before, and it's a similar feeling now in this change room. The confidence is great, and we just got to take each and every game as it comes, and Birmingham will be a good test. There's no doubt they're a good team.
After a memorable cup win over Premier League opposition in midweek, the Swans are aiming to make it 5 unbeaten in the Championship. Elsewhere, Cardiff City could enjoy their longest unbeaten start to a season in a quarter of a century. The Bluebirds, unbeaten in 10 games, are top of League One and take on Bradford in second. In League Two, Newport County host Gillingham. At the World Athletics Championships in Tokyo, Welsh heptathlete Abigail Paulet has responded well after suffering a nasty fall in her first event. Third from the right here, she tripped in the 100-metre hurdles, hitting her head, but she went on to run fastest in the 200 metres and achieved a personal best in the high jump. She's 14th overall, with 3 events tomorrow. She was the first Welsh woman ever to win an Olympic gold medal. Swimmer Irene Steer was part of the relay team at the 1912 Stockholm Olympics. Now a purple plaque celebrating remarkable women in Wales has been unveiled to mark her achievements. And Lucy Owen was there too.
The 22nd purple plaque in Wales. This celebrating a trailblazing sportswoman who made history, Irene Steer. This is the 1912 Team GB relay swimming team. Irene, on the right, was 23. It was the first time women were allowed into the Olympic pool. In the middle, a chaperone who had to accompany them.
You can imagine at that time how difficult it was for them to change, to come in and be in the public eye, and then, in this case, go all the way to Stockholm to compete. It wouldn't have been at all easy, and that's why I think she was so special. She wasn't daunted at all by any of the difficulties. She just knew what she wanted, and she got it.
Now, you may be wondering why this plaque has been positioned here at Roath Park Lake in Cardiff. Well, this is where Irene used to train. And one of her grandchildren told me today that she swam well into her 70s. And apparently, her secret to a long and healthy life was a raw egg and half a pint of beer every day.
First away were the women.
This race in Roath Park was 20 years after Irene's Olympic achievement, but it gives an idea of what her training in the lake may have been like. In this BBC interview, Irene recalled that golden Olympic moment.
When we won, they played the national anthem, and we had to parade around the bath, you know. And they hoisted the Union Jack and things. It was all very thrilling.
Dozens of members of Irene's family were at the unveiling today to remember her. David, I understand there's something very special you're able to show me.
Yes, well, this is the 1912 gold medal that my grandmother won. It hasn't seen the light of day, really, very much. You feel the weight of the gold.
So that is solid gold?
Solid gold, yeah. So I was a bit nervous about bringing it, but I'm being very careful, trying not to forget, put it down when forget it.
Don't lose it.
I mustn't.
Well, she was tiny. She had size 3 feet, and she never weighed more than, I don't think, 7 stone in her life. She was about 5'1" or 2. I mean, she was quite a determined lady, obviously.
So she's our great-great-grandma.
And what did you think of this plaque being unveiled to her today?
I was really excited when I found out.
And do you like swimming as well?
Yes, but sometimes it takes me a little long to get in the pool.
While this recognition is being celebrated, there have been questions over why there are no statues yet honouring sportswomen of Wales.
Of course, I think there's scope for more statues for women and doing all sorts of things in Wales. And if this spurs a statue for Irene, well, that's great.
It would be another 96 years before another Welsh woman won Olympic gold. Irene Steer will be remembered for paving the way for future generations of sportswomen.
Lucy Owen with that report. And that's it from me. Have a lovely weekend, Jen.
Thomas, thank you very much. Well, to Monmouthshire now, where a medieval church has been saved after a major restoration. St James's in Llangear dates back to the 12th century, but had fallen into disrepair, with its roof about to collapse. Well, after 5 years of fundraising, it's now been transformed and is open to visitors again. So Nellie Bird went along to find out more.
St James's in Llangear before any work started. Holes in the ceiling which had sagged completely out of shape. The stone tiles on the roof meant it was about to fall in. Fast forward 5 years and this church in the Monmouthshire countryside has been beautifully transformed. The wagon roof again back to its clear arch shape. The church dates back as far as the 12th century but was extended in the 15th century to become the building you see now. But dwindling church congregations meant it was no longer used and had fallen into disrepair.
We sort of joked that the cobwebs were holding the roof up because we just don't know how it was still up there.
That's when the charity Friends of Friendless Churches got involved and set upon 3 years of fundraising for the project, which found £170,000 of public donations alongside large grants to be able to secure a contractor to carry out the works.
Without exaggeration, it was at the point of collapse. That was quite clear. So the roof, the A-frame of the roof started to sag under the weight over a few hundred years, pushed right down. And in this part of the building, to the note of about 2 feet of sag. And instead of this lovely barrel vault ceiling you see here, it was quite flat. It was almost like an M shape.
A little bit of decay in that, isn't there? Just a little bit.
And so the work began. The whole roof was covered and lifted. The timber frames were squeezed back into shape. It was a huge job, and the timbers had to be repaired or replaced according to traditional methods.
And it's a breathable skin.
The plaster also had to be made traditionally, which meant lime, sand and hair. Not so easy to source these days, so plasterer Louis put himself forward to get things going.
It sort of started off as a joke. I wasn't entirely sure whether I would do it or not.
Oh, my beautiful locks.
It just feels amazing that not only I put my heart and soul into the work here, I am literally part of this building now, and that's just a great thing.
Now the work is finished and the church is open again to visitors.
These buildings are so massively culturally important, and more so that they belong to the nation. So for this church to fall down or to be sold into private ownership would be just a real kind of loss.
It's been a huge challenge to restore this building, but now the work is done, the history of this ancient church can be enjoyed for generations to come. Nellie Bird, BBC Wales Today at St James's Church in Llangia.
OK, let's get the forecast now. And I guess we all want to know if we're in for a dry weekend, Sabrina.
Hi Jen, good question. Well, after all the recent rainfall we've seen so far this month, I do have more wet weather on the way. But in terms of this weekend, it is a tale of two halves. So wet Saturday, but Sunday onwards, it does turn significantly drier. But with that, we're also on a bit of a temperature roller coaster. So let's start off then by talking about the weather warning. This starts tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. and expires Sunday morning at 6 a.m. This warning could well be tweaked as we go through this weekend, but I think the general theme is through this warning area, we could see around 20 to 30 millimetres of rainfall. In some of the wettest locations, we could see around 60 to 80 millimetres of rainfall, and that's not exclusively for high ground. So I think because of all the wet weather we have seen this month, the ground is saturated in places, the continued chance for some localised flooding. Today itself then, it has been pretty mild and humid, even warm in a few spots where there's been a bit of sunshine. As for this evening, clouding over widely with more in the way of significant rain pushing in. So some of that is set to be on the heavy side. Overnight lows typically staying on the mild side, 13 or 14 Celsius for those towns and cities. Into tomorrow's forecast then, plenty of rain on the way. Whilst there could be a few dry breaks, I think in general expect some persistent rain. Some of that is also set to be on the heavy side. Plenty of cloud, there could be some mist and fog in places too. Temperatures then peaking around 14 to 18 Celsius. The winds initially from southerly directions tending to veer around more to the north as the day wears on. Then wet weather is expected Saturday night into the early hours of Sunday morning. So again, that will tend to pivot across the country. Some spells on the heavy side, which could cause some disruption. Then by the time we get to Sunday, a change in air mass. So instead of it coming up from the south or southwest, it's coming down from the north. And as a result, you will notice the drop in temperatures, especially when given some of the strength of those winds. So in more detail for Sunday then, any of the early cloud and rain clear in, and then we're left with something drier and brighter, more in the way of sunshine developing, winds coming down from the north. So I think the temperatures on paper around 12 to 14 Celsius. Factor in the wind, it will feel a little bit cooler than what you see here, but definitely more in the way of sunshine. And speaking of sunshine, it's felt like a bit of a stranger so far this month, hasn't it? But the outlook does show more in the way of sunshine, drier conditions too. So signs of something a bit more promising after the wet month we've had. Jen?
Good news, Sabrina. Thank you. And that's Wales Today. We'll be back with the headlines at 10:30 tonight. But for now, do have a very good Friday evening. Bye-bye.